Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video, we'll quickly take a look at what is the rate non-null annotation from Lombok. Let's quickly create a package and let's also create a sample class. Okay, so let's take a sample scenario where we wanted to print a person details using this non-null example class. So before we wanted to print person details, let us go ahead and create a person class as well. And let's say the person class have a couple of fields. Let's have age, and let us also have getters and as well as setters for this particular class. Okay, so now our person class is ready, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to print the person details from non-null example class. For that, let me quickly create a method. This method doesn't return anything. Void print person details, and this method should accept a person object, right? And let's sys out the details of the person. So person get name, and let's also sys out person dot get age. So our print details method is ready. Let's go ahead and invoke this method from our main application class. In order to invoke, we need to create an object. Okay, so we have our object ready, and I wanted to invoke print details print person details method. So in order to execute or invoke print person details, I need to pass the person object. For that, let me go ahead and create a person type variable, and let me pass this person here. And let us also make an additional change in our person details method, print person details method, sys out method execution started, and let's also print out method execution ended. Okay, so now this looks good. We are invoking the print person details method. Let's go ahead and run the application. All right, so we clearly see a message, an exception has been thrown, a null pointer exception, which is saying that person.getName cannot be invoked, right? And because person is null, we know that we didn't create any object. We just defined or declared the person type variable and we passed it, which doesn't have any object initialization. And we are trying to invoke the get name and get age method on the person object, which doesn't exist, and it is throwing null pointer exception. So what's the flaw here means, even though the person object is null, this method logic is still being executed. We see that method execution has been started, and we are also trying to invoke get name, and during the runtime came to know that this person is not having any object defined, or it is null and it is unable to invoke get name method on the null object, right? So it has thrown a null pointer exception. So now how to restrict it? So for that we have non-null. Now when I specify non-null, what technically happens is in the background, Lombok won't even Lombok will add an additional check before the method execution start. So it will check if the person is null or not. If the person is null, it will throw a null pointer exception and no business logic in the method will get executed. Now let's rerun the same code with at the rate non-null, and we can clearly see the difference in the exception message that is being thrown now. All right. Now if you see, person is marked non-null but is null, right? What is happening? And we don't even see this statement being printed on the console now, because Lombok internally it have checked whether the person object is null or not. Because it is null, it have thrown exception and it didn't execute, and the execution didn't went to any of these method statements. So what happens internally is, this is what happens internally. So person equal to null, throw exception. So this is what Lombok is doing internally. So these lines of code will be automatically added by Lombok in order to avoid or in order to do null checks. So I hope this is clear. Now let's go back to our main application, and instead of passing a null reference, let's create a new person object with some default details like null and zero are the default. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a constructor, default constructor now. Let's generate a all args constructor, and now I have created a person object and I'm again passing the same person object, and let's rerun the application. Okay, so now we can see method execution has been started and the name is null and the age is 0, because whenever I'm creating an object, I have wantedly specified the name to be null and 0. I'll let you know what is the reason behind it, but we can see the method is getting executed and the values are being printed. Now Lombok also helps us to restrict non-null values for constructors. So now whatever non-null that we have specified, that is on the print details print person details method. Similarly, we can also specify non-null at the constructor level. So when I specify non-null at the constructor level, so what happens is, now when I'm creating an object, I am wantedly passing null, and now when I execute, you see that null pointer exception is thrown, and we can also clearly check that. Let's have another sysout statement. Construction execution started. Let's rerun the application. Okay, and we don't even see this sysout statement being printed. That is because before the control comes to this particular line, the name parameter is checked whether it is null or not. If it is null, it is throwing an exception. So that's how non-null will help us to check the null values before we execute certain piece of logic. And now let's come back to our main application class and let's give some name and let's rerun. And this time nothing should go wrong and it should print the brand and the age. Okay, let me change the age to 21 just for valid data. Okay, now we see the right details are being printed. I hope this helps. Thank you.